We continue the spook. I forgot what the entire name of this series was, with Alone in the Dark. Created a long time ago in the long forgotten year of 1992, the same year that brought us Ultima 7 and Ultima Underworld and Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis and Star Control 2, Wolfenstein 3D, Dune 2, some of the greatest games there. I even made a show about this, so go check out that show. Or stay around and let's look a bit into the past and see what was up with Alone in the Dark. Well, I could tell you what wasn't up with Alone in the Dark, and that was Call of Cthulhu. You may be seeing some images on the background where the name Cthulhu is actually written down at the bottom of the screen. That is the demo version of the game. It's the one that runs really badly. The game was initially going to be licensed after the Call of Cthulhu role-playing system, but apparently the owners of that role-playing system decided that the game doesn't really have enough complexity to actually do justice in any way to the rule set, to the pen and paper RPG, and they're absolutely right. The game does not have pretty much anything to do with what the Call of Cthulhu RPG, Call of Cthulhu game would have been. Instead, it's just one of those Resident Evil style survival horror games where you're alone in a mansion and have to solve all sorts of puzzles, avoid traps, and shoot zombies on occasion or some other kind of creature. Only, here's the thing. This was released way before Resident Evil. Alone in the Dark, alongside the last week's Firestart, are what I can call pretty much the progenitors of the survival horror genre. Project Firestart, when it came to some of the basic ideas of it, of what you would do, how would you progress through this kind of scenario, and Alone in the Dark in, well, everything else. It is pretty much exactly what you would have in this genre for the next decade. Just about every other game outright copied it. The same kind of camera placements, the same kind of controls, the same kinds of awkward interactions of movements. It's all here, but that doesn't make Alone in the Dark derivative by today's standards, because it still had its own take on things, and it was a very important take. Non-linearity. For you see, the game did not outright punish you just because you didn't have a gun ready when a zombie was about to come in through the floor. It sort of left you for a while to your own devices in deciding exactly how you would proceed. Would you spend the very rare and not all that often found ammo to take out that zombie, or would you just plug the hole in the floor from whence the zombie came from, and thereby never be pestered by the creature? Things would become a bit more clear as the game went on, because you would encounter enemies that you could simply not kill. You were not a STARS agent, you were not a Jill Sandwich, you weren't some guy that can punch out a boulder. You were a normal person in this game. One of two people. You could be either Edward Carnaby, the reptile, a detective, a paranormal investigator of sorts, if you will, that receives a job to go to a mansion and look for things. Or you could be Emily Hartwood, I think it was niece of the last owner of the Dercito mansion. An owner that killed himself, hanged himself in the attic. And it is your job to find out why. And so you go to the mansion in that very iconic intro. You climb the stairs, you go up there, and you know there's supposed to be a secret compartment in the piano, but just as you arrive, the door slams behind you and all manners of evils take root and flourish. When I first played Alone in the Dark many years ago, it scared the crap out of me. You have, I think, like 10 seconds at your disposal from the moment you start moving to the point where something starts running at the window of the attic and crashes through it and will kill you if you're not really prepared. It's not just the panic that seeing that creature creates, it's just the way the creature looks. It's sort of a dog via low poly horror. It still looks frightening today because it is hard to conceive what it is, what it can be. You cannot create the kind of horror that creature ushered onto me using modern graphics. It's impossible. You'd have to add details, you'd have to add textures that made sense, you'd have to create joints that move in a realistic way. You could not simply make a jagged, janky, jittery mess that just screamed at you with teeth and claws and killed you. It is a jump scare, absolutely, and jump scares are not what you would call the greatest thing ever, but it is made in a different way than most modern jump scares are, because you see it coming. It doesn't just crash out of nowhere through the window, you see it coming. And if you hurry, you do have time to push the wardrobe in front of the window and save yourself some combat. That's actually something that comes up in the introduction of the characters, where they mentioned that the wardrobe was for some reason moved in front of the window. So you know you're supposed to do that. I think they may have added that because in the testing phase probably some people did not understand they could push the wardrobe, so they added it there so it would be obvious. You also have a mass of zombies that continue to come through the floor, so you can just push a crate, just actually over the trapdoor and never have any problems with them anymore. Or you could keep on shooting them and kicking them in the face and then proceed down the stairs if you have the full version of the game, not just the demo. And when you descend the stairs, you encounter, well, let's say that you may call games like Dark Souls complete and other cheap bastards because of the variety of ways in which you can die without it being your own fault at all, because the game just really hates you and will put you into really unpredictable situations where you're expected to sort of die unless you have beforehand knowledge. Well, imagine that, but without a respawn function, so save often. Though to be fair, when it came to falling into holes in the floor, Alone in the Dark would give you certain clues, like the floor being uneven, there being some noticeable problems with the way the floor looked. But then again, sort of think, okay, I'm on the 3rd floor, I'm gonna fall through the floor, I'm gonna fall to the 2nd floor. It's not gonna kill me. It will, because this building is evil. It is corrupted by a darkness from beyond, a darkness that you can go visit in the beyond if you try to open the front door and you are sucked into the beyond. There is no escaping. There is always the joke that in most haunted house movies, all the people have to do is get out of the house. Get out and they'll be safe. There's not going to be any problems. Just get out of the house. Well, you can't. You will die. You will be sucked into a vortex of never-ending torment, or I don't know, something that looked like an eye. I think it may have been Cthulhu, or should have been Cthulhu if they still had a license, and you die. You lose. There's no escape until you actually solve the many, many mysteries within this house. Or the main mystery, that of just what the hell is going on here. Or the mystery of which one of these books is gonna kill me, because the game did have the habit of killing you randomly. It was built with the idea that, okay, we're gonna kill the player when they don't expect it. We're gonna have them read a book and then just be murderized in a way that may not seem like it was evident. The idea was that in this way they would create a constant sense of fear and dread so that you would never ever walk into a room relaxed. You would never just calmly open a door, think to yourself, oh, nothing's gonna kill me if I go through here. I'm just gonna breeze in, see what's around, then come back and explore some more and, you know, not be terrified that anything and everything will murder me. And because there were situations, many of them, where you would be fighting creatures that cannot be killed, you had to think on your toes, or you had to think on the developer's toes and figure out exactly how you were meant to murderize, or at least get around these creatures. And to be fair, you did have some hints, for example, in books about how you could deal with them. There's the one with the mirrors. It's about the Medusa and the Golden Fleece, and you can use the mirrors to deal with the monsters at the stairs that you can't really kill. And let's say you shot them with your shotgun and wasted your precious bullets, and now you're gonna run around with the bullets and your weapon. All I had to do was place some mirrors. And yeah, to find stuff like this out, you would sometimes die because the books would sometimes kill. There's a risk factor there that will never go away, especially because the game has a non-linear structure after you deal with those two gargoyle things. You're never sure where you're supposed to exactly go at first, because there is no predefined path for a chunk of the game. You can go to any room, the ones you can open, you can go to any floor, the ones you have access to, which is a bunch of them, and you can try and find health kits, you can try and find weapons, you can try and find all sorts of items that may or may not be useful at a point. It's that sense of non-linearity that kind of still makes it an interesting thing to play, even though, again, it is janky as hell by today's standards in terms of controls, in terms of graphics, in terms of pretty much anything. But one thing it still does really well is the atmosphere, because for the most part, all you hear are your own footsteps, just beating step by step on the floor, nothing else around, and then a sound comes, a creak, a simple and may scare you, and then the music starts and you think, oh okay, the music started, meaning that something's coming, something's bad, something's gonna eat me, and it will. If you're not prepared, it will, it absolutely will. Or the game may glitch out and the music may start to play even though there's nothing around that can actually harm you. Or the monster may be invisible. Who knows? It's probably a cliche. I don't remember invisible monsters in the game. Though I've never actually finished it, played it properly in like 12 years minimum. The game was a great success. I mean, according to the thing on Wikipedia, it sold 600,000 copies in 5 years, which okay, may not be great, and the number may actually cover its sequels as well, which is something that some people did conflate sometimes. It did have sequels though, a bunch of them, though they were not really the same kind of game. The second one had you fight mobsters and I think pirates, and there was maybe I think more of an emphasis on combat, or at least there were more weapons, and it didn't feel as much of a horror experience where you would be constantly murderized by everything around you and the house was actively trying to kill you. Though there was still a house where things were actively trying to kill you. And the sequel did have a bit more of a linear vibe to it. And then the third one came, and it was a Wild West affair where you would be, you would sort of become a zombie cowboy. And then the fourth one came, A New Nightmare, which was a reboot. I don't have super detailed memories about it. I think it may have been okay. Then the fifth one came, which was sort of inspired-ish in part slightly tangentially by the movie by Uwe. They had really great fire propagation in the technology. I love to see that thing. The game itself did also have some neat ideas, like you had to blink and your inventory was in your jacket, and it was janky as hell in pretty much every other aspect. And then the putrid corpse that is infesting the skin of Atari released a Left 4 Dead knockoff called Alone in the Dark Illumination, which is one of the worst ideas ever committed against video games since turning Asteroids into a survival game, which was also something that Atari did, and that game was never actually finished. I even made at least one show about it, and it was bad when it was released, and they never did anything with it. And if you want to play the games, you can find the first 3 on GOG. They're, I think, €5 and a bit, all 3 of them in one single entity. The fourth one is separate. The fifth one, and Illumination is still for sale on Steam for some reason. And I would only recommend it if you would like to give it as a gift to somebody you hate, or if you want to make a case study of how to completely botch nostalgia, like how to completely and totally ruin a franchise. The first 4 ones are at least enjoyable in a way, sometimes. The spooktacularness will continue next week with a game about a girl and a tower and a pair of scissors and a clock. Goodbye.